Welcome to the OK Taco Show, everybody. My name is Conrad, and how are you, buddy? Today is October 4th, 2023, the year of our Lord, and I'm broadcasting live on Facebook in a 1977 Airstream Excella 500. And a lot of you people out there probably know exactly what that is, so I don't need to describe it. But this is not what it looked like inside of that Airstream in 1977. It was covered in vinyl brown walls, very UPS. Think what the UPS truck looks like. A lot of times in 1977, people went with a cardboard box interior decor. And so that is what the inside of this place looked like. We tore it all out. We cooked a crap load of burritos and stuff in here, and then tore that all out and put in all these video games. And now children and adults alike in the area of Davenport, Oklahoma, on Route 66 are welcome to enjoy this little 77 Airstream throughout the week. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing on Patreon and the other places that you listen to this kind of garbage. And, continue to do so. Continue to get out there and subscribe. Like everything else. I don't care. I'm glad you're here. I hope you find it, and if you do what you want. If you subscribe, great. If you don't, terrific. That's kind of how people feel about it, or I do. So I got a big show tonight. It is Wednesday. Last Wednesday, I was lucky enough to be asked to jump on board with the BLC, the Black Lincoln Collective podcast, and so we streamed that here on the Facebook page and posted the video on Patreon. But or maybe we didn't. I don't know. Either way, it's out there and you can find it. And so it was nice to be on there, but it's kind of nice to be back, in the cigar tube, in the silver pickle, and just with my thoughts and you and my son, who's back here. Jonah's snuck out of church tonight well, you didn't sneak out. What? What are you saying? Yeah, I know. I know. Well, the deal was Jonah has tumbling and stretching on Wednesday evenings, and then afternoons, and then they go to church Wednesday nights. But there's a storm that rolled into the area. Pretty good storm. Well, I'll give it 3 burritos out of 10. As far as it wasn't the worst we've been through, but it was especially in Oklahoma. So they canceled church, and Jonah snuck back over here somehow and has been hiding out, which is fine. And so Thick James just left, and I'm back. So here we are. So I gotta go. Sometimes I tell people a list. Sometimes I just go and then get to what I get to. Part of me thinks I kind of want to. I'm just gonna mention everything that's on the list tonight, and then we'll start at the top. It's the best way to do it. So on the list tonight, we got action sticks. I got to get into that. New beans. I got to talk a little bit about that. There's a new show on. It's not really new, and it's kind of a pretty old story, to be honest with you. So I got to talk about that. Man miraculously. Oh, there was a miraculous survivor story that there's a video of, and I'm not sure if I'm all hooked up or anything to play the video with the Bluetooth tonight, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to see it. We'll describe it. And then I got some thoughts about something that's been going on in the ocean that I just heard about. I don't know much about the ocean living in the middle of America, but I've heard of it. And I have seen it, and I've supposedly flown a plane over it if it wasn't an illusion that they were streaming through the screen. I don't know. Also, there's a couple ocean stories I got on the Good News Network. Got a new product invention for aging celebrities and probably for fans of said celebrities that made the list tonight. And then got a new idea for possibly an OK Taco new menu item, I guess I'd call it that. And then I got a little bit of a thought on, I guess I would put it as, are we blindfolded on a certain thing that's happening in America? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Are we not paying attention to something that's been happening under our nose the whole time? I don't know how. So we'll find out. So we'll start action sticks, guys. This is simple, buddy. I was thinking about, because where we're at on this glorious Mother Road in the heart of Oklahoma in Lincoln County, it's right in between Oklahoma and Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And it's a beautiful stretch of highway. And people visit from all over the world to this town to take pictures and make it part of their journey as they travel from Chicago to Santa Monica. And so, as a part of their journey that they don't even know we're a part of yet, because they don't know we exist yet, because we're not part of any of the Route 66 books and we're not part of the list. Yeah, we're on Google now, but like if you've planned your trip, you don't even know. And so you pull into our parking lot and you're like, what is it? And you don't know. And that's understandable and fine. But as it grows and as we, if we can just hang in there, hold on, I'm coming. Like that kind of thing is how it feels. Just got to hold on for one more day, like Wilson Phillips says. And so if we can just hold on for one more day each day, then at some point, those people will know we can become a stop for those people, which is an unintended benefit of the location. People probably really don't believe me when I say I had no idea. I did not matter that it was on Route 66 to me, but it was like, oh, that's great. Not realizing that there's this whole culture and community that I somehow also totally vibe with and fit into just naturally. But anyways, so we got ideas. And so, we have the tree of automobiles, the car keychains that we've come out with. And there's a David Hasselhoff is in there as Knight Rider, who's modeling a few merchandise that you have in. But if people don't know that your place exists, then why are they going to want to buy a product that has your previously non-existent place on it? You know what I mean? So until they understand that there is a buzz, there's no reason to buy a t-shirt. And so you got to come up with items. So sometimes the keychains, and my wife make candles, and oftentimes we'll have different kinds of baked goods and stuff, simple things that are easy as we develop basically a Cracker Barrel style product line. And one thing that I always think of when I think of touristy places is there's always a barrel somewhere in there of walking canes or walking sticks at like a Cracker Barrel or any touristy stop. And it's almost loves any gas station. It's almost a visual to me. It's a like a mental hack for consumers or for business owners in retail to have something that divides a room that is a product that's sellable in a vertical way. There probably is some sort of science on that I'm too dumb to find or will never research. But at least in my unscientific taco brain, having those when tourists would walk into a place, it's a distraction enough to draw your attention there and then possibly look at other things around it, I think. Or just see that these things are for sale. Or maybe it's just a masculine thing or a man thing that anytime a man sees a piece of lumber that's been sanded and stained, we have to touch it. I mean, it's basically like when you see a button. If there's a button and it's unattended, an unattended button, you put a button that's unattended, like, and no cameras around, and even if you had one hidden camera that showed men walking by an unattended button, they would look around and push the button. That's just what happens. If you got a hairy set on you, you're gonna push that button and see what happens. You don't just put a freaking unmarked button out there unattended. So, anyways, the walking sticks, lumber stained stuff is masculine, and so I thought we got to get some walking sticks. Good news, we got a bunch of dead trees, and people throw all their dead shit and stuff, trees into our yard over here. So as they're driving by, they throw us a bunch of treasure. And they may not look at it like that, but everybody's got their way. And so we collect the good treasure, the good lumber that these people are throwing on our property. I take it over and I got the grinder and I sand it down and I created and what I call an action stick. It's not a walking stick. The reason is obvious. Freaking almost half the country can't walk, Buster. I think recent studies say that 33% of this country is unwalkable. Now, why would I be selling walking sticks or even displaying it to a group of people that can't even do it? And even if that number seems a little inflated, you got to remember our southern border. And then also, you got to remember that it's a podcast that's broadcast out of a taco shop. I don't have to be right. So here's the thing. Not everybody can walk. That is a fact. I do know that. But everybody, no matter who they are, can do an action. Even if you're a Stephen Hawking fella and you're rolling around in a breathable frickin' wheelchair device, dude, you can get an action stick. Well, frickin', you come into... If Stephen Hawking was still here, gosh, I wish he was still here. And I bet he is. His soul is all around. I feel it anytime I do any math. But if he was still here, physically, I'd be duct taping. I'd do whatever he wanted. We'd do hot wire or solder or get some frickin' electrical solder, and we'd solder a damn action stick to his wheelchair, and he'd be jousting in the parking lot with Jonah on his bike. That's what we do here, man. It's not a walking stick. It's an action stick. If you choose to walk with it, great. If you choose to point out if you're a businessman. I know a lot of businessmen listen to this podcast. Maybe you're a businessman, you got a big presentation going on, buddy, and you got to listen. It's tough times out there. Okay? People are tight with their money. Spending ain't happening like it used to. We got to figure out a way to sell our products, and we need you to be the guy to do it. You freaking grab your action stick and you use that instead of a laser pointer. You say, listen, we're going to sell over here. We're going to buy up this unused property, develop it. You'll come up with something with an action stick, you will. So OK Taco is selling action sticks now. Price varies, quantity varies. We have 2. They're locally sourced, like 1.5, locally sourced wood, obviously farm to table. And these are handcrafted, perfectly designed for so many actions. Stretching, you can't, the list goes on. If I was to write a list of actions you could do with an action stick, this podcast would be going on for infinity. Okay? Think about what you're doing right now. Now imagine holding a stick. Boom. It doesn't matter. It's an action stick. So buy one whenever you get down here, and I will ship them. It's a $100 shipping. Right? That sounds. We'll float it to you. Okay. That's one thing we got going on at the taco shop. Another thing that's going on at the taco shop is it's kind of not really new. It is old coming back to new. And so what that means is when we first started, Shannon and I, we had this bean recipe that my wife had, where you take the dried pinto beans and you soak them overnight for 12 hours, and then you cook them she would slow cook them for 8 hours. And so you got like a 20-hour bean process going on of rinsing, soaking, salting, and different broths that are going on. And what would ultimately happen is you would have the most delicious little Tootsie Rolls of your life when you had a beanie cheesy that my wife made. But so when Shannon and I started, we had done that. We had multiple crock pots, and we were freaking trying to learn how to make her beans and trying to learn how to use a crock pot and trying to learn how to schedule how much different product to cook and how to refrigerate and what containers to use and all this different stuff on our travel, blah, 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 blah. Goes on and on. But it got to a point where us doing it the way my wife was doing it was just too much, and we had to go to like the canned pinto beans and try a number of variations that way. But with the free time that the lovely people of Lincoln County area have given us by not coming to our restaurant, gives me plenty of time to actually learn how to cook And so over the past couple days, we've been making the beans, which are dangerously good. I mean, that would be the best way to describe them. They are dangerously good. So I would say eat with caution, enjoy with caution, because they're potent. When you are adding H2O, water, that's the science way to say water. When you're adding frickin' H2O to a bean, you're puffing up all that bean air. And here's the thing that happened. Speaking of puffing up and hot air and beans. So, like I said, this is my wife's recipe. And if anything is true about Jonah's mother, my wife, when she speaks of things she knows. And she seems to have been hit by the know-it-all stick at some point in her life, because although Jonah and I are admittedly dumb, and he has got an excuse, he's only 11, but we're admittedly dumb. That's fine, but we've never been able to say something that my wife hadn't heard of, invented, already thought of, whatever. There's never been a time when we've come up and been like, hey, we got a great idea, when she doesn't already been like, yeah, Germany invented that after the Cold War, and, it's like, oh, yeah, and it went out of date because everybody hated it. It's like, oh, well, thanks, I'm sorry. Trying to help people out. Thought it'd be a great way to solve cancer. Bye, And that's what marriage is. That's what marriage is. So I go to her with things like, how do I cook? Like if I have questions on how to cook, how do I heat this up? And so I go over and I say, I'm gonna attempt to go back to the old bean recipe, which I have experience in doing, but we have the kitchen now. And so there's different methods on how to do it. And so we had come up with this plan. So I'd come up with a plan. This is where we have to stop listening to me. This is what I keep trying to tell her. I come up with a plan. I was like, well, maybe we'll soak them, we'll rinse them, and with the strainer, soak them overnight, pull some out, cook those, and then let the other ones soak. But we need to mark them because you don't want to be adding new beans. I said, well, what I'll do is I'll pour them all out into a big container and then mark that we had them soaking on that day, whatever day that was. And then I had cooked some. So I cooked the one. We did this plan. It's great, right? Everything's great. And I asked her, like, well, how long do you think these things can soak? And she's like, I don't know, probably a week, I would think, because that seems to be what everybody says when you talk about how long food lasts. You're going to notice that as you go through life now. Ask anybody how long something lasts. I bet they're going to say it's about a week. How long is this yogurt going to last? About a week. How long? Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's just, if you don't know something, just say about a week, because usually people forget about it or nobody cares. So, anyways, I put them in there and mark it, but I'm also trying good news, bad news. Good news is we're working together on this. Good news is I don't have to let these set for a week because I'm trying also to figure out the method of cooking, refrigeration, via soaking, because there's a time, I'm sure there's some person that a lead time to that process if you want to have some sort of efficiency. So you want to have enough prepared and enough ready to be prepared and enough ready to go in stock. And how much of those do you need? That's the kind of questions we were experimenting with. But I open up, first of all, I come in and like, man, it stinks. And I'm like, yeah, well, maybe a pilot light went out, and that happens sometimes. It's an old building, and, it's haunted and filled with spiders, and there's possible that there's propane leaking through the ground. We don't know. And so, yeah, it stinks a little. And I go back and I wash these beans again. I rinse them because I'm worried about them. And I was like, man, these are pungent. And I tell my wife, I said, these smell bad. She's like, ah, it's fine. Well, it wasn't fine. Here's the thing. I don't know if it is fine, but it seemed to me like at a certain point after 2 days of soaking, it appeared that we were growing beans. You know what I mean? Somehow we went from soaking to cook to soaking to grow. Like I opened up the container after, I think, 3 days. So on day 3. Now, luckily, again, none of these had gotten cooked just by the grace of God or something, because the time just didn't work. Where at some point I had to throw a can in just to whatever. So, anyways, I was like, man, they're growing. I mean, these things are full grown bean trees or however I mean, has anybody ever tried just putting beans in water, guys? I think that's how we get more beans, is what I'm saying. I don't know if they're burying them. I don't know where beans come from or the bean bushes, but maybe we should start just throwing a bunch of beans in the ocean, because I think although it'd be a stinky ocean, we get a lot of beans because they would grow infinitely. So, anyways, we figured it out and we got back to the old recipe of the potent, tasty beans, and a good little method, I think, of procedure, at least a good start. So that's the bean story, and but that's my wife. I would say, looking back, reflecting on the smell, that's what I like to call it, the event. And I look at it more like a PTSD thing of the time that I tried to blend the stinky beans, because a lot of things, I just got done making an action stick. I had just got done cleaning the vent hood, so I was real proud about that. Those kinds of things that nobody gives a shit. Some people call it their life, where nobody gives a shit about it, but you got to stand back with your arms on your hips, your hands on your hips, like a Superman, and look at your work. Let's look at this beautiful vent hood I just polished. And I was like, okay, I'm going to, I got plenty of beans. So if these are bad, now's a great time to test them. And so I start blending, and I'm like, there is no way that this is correct. This is not good. And so, I got rid of them. I had to get rid of them. I had a lot of cleaning to do and dishes, and because I had prepped a lot of beans. But we got it figured out. And so that's the story of the beans. And I'm an idiot. But ultimately, the next process will be the tortillas. And I got kind of a primitive plan on that. And so I think if we rock that, I mean, get fresh tortilla, fresh beans, fresh pico, fresh lettuce, and a taco grilled or hard for $3. That's not bad. Well, we'll do it. I also, in food news, I did hear, I think it's about a week ago though, that the fast food and also Wichita born, I should say, fast food company White Castle, which is home of the miniature hamburger, the slider. They were celebrating an achievement, not only as the oldest, I think they're the oldest fast food hamburger company in the country. White Castle is older than McDonald's even. And I had to, it, yeah, no, I don't know how, I can't remember what year it started, but it's old. And since it's been open, do you want to take a guess at how many White Castle sliders they have sold? Total? You want to take a guess at how many White Castle burgers they've sold since they've been open? Jonas says 1 billion. No, White Castle Burgers has sold 28 billion White Castle sliders since they've been open, which, for the sake of this conversation, let's just say they've been open since 1923. So they've been open 100 years, which is probably why the story was. And they've sold 28 billion. And so because I'm competitive by nature and I'm naughty by nature, like the band, and also I was just curious, how many Taco Supremes have I sold this year? I've sold 3,384. A lot of people would say that's pretty good. And, like with the vent hood, I stood back and I said, there you go. It's a lot of Taco Supremes. It's not the most, but you made 3,384 Taco Supremes. That's pretty dang good, buddy. You know how many years it would take me? Say that I made 5,000 Taco Supremes. You know how many years it would take me to get to 28 billion? It would take me 5 million years. So that's freaking crazy. And I also heard on the same show that 12% of humans, 12% of, I think it's people, No, 12% of Americans are responsible for 50% of beef consumption. So almost 10%, if you got 100 people in a room, 12 of them will eat half the food, and the rest of the 88 will eat the other half. So that's where we're at now. If you guys, and I guess they're eating White Castle, that's what's happening. But it's a good goal, and obviously White Castle's still open, so they're going to be adding to that tally, probably at a higher clip, but I'll get there. I mean, 28 billion. Wow. Oh, okay. So I don't know if I want to go to. I could tell you about this story, or should I tell you about the show? Well, I'll tell you the story. Caught my attention because it's something that, for whatever reason, there are those things that stick with you, probably because of childhood movies and culture, whatever. Like, if you read Swiss Family Robinsons or you watched the movie or something, you were going to get a treehouse, or you read The Little Rascals or something. Like, there was Americana stuff. But there was also certain ways that you thought that you might die. Falling out of the treehouse might be one of them. Quicksand was always big. And then one of the ones that always intrigued me was fighting on top of a locomotive, fighting on top of a train. And then within the fight, doing the move where you lay on the tracks and have the train go over you. And you have to lay real still. And they also do it with semis sometimes, like traffic. Well, anyways, I think in India, one of these guys had watched too many movies. A guy named Pratik Kumar jumped off the train in New Delhi to buy biscuits and a cold drink. And, let's just stop there. There's a lot of reasons that this gentleman could have given to why he jumped off the train. But that's what I like about India, dude. Once they got to the moon, because they're on the moon now, fella. Once they got to the moon, honesty just went up a whole nother level. They were already good doctors. But now, these guys are honest fellas, too. And so when you ask him, why'd you jump off that train? He says, to buy biscuits. Okay. That's a good answer. But when the train began to pull away without him, you get the biscuits, the train's going, man. He ran to jump on board and slipped under the moving train. So he survived by lying down between the anterior track and the brick-walled platform. And people said that videos show the officials watching in horror as they wait for the train to pass. Yeah, I bet. Like, don't move. Pratik, don't move. Do not eat that biscuit. But the train is going to be gone in a second. Don't eat that biscuit. What are you doing? You're going to lose. I know you want it. Stop it. He was careful with his movements and stayed still, waiting for the train to pass. A local said, I'm the local. After the train had gone, the cops came to the aid of the victim, getting down on the track and picking him up. Kumar suffered minor injuries and also had parts of his clothes torn in the incident. Oh, that's not... Well, to be fair, looking at him, his clothes were torn possibly prior. There's a biscuit man. If you're jumping off trains to get biscuits, you got torn clothes, buddy. Before you don't... that's like when you get up and people are like, are you okay? And you're like, well, yeah, oh my God, I got ketchup and chili on me down here. And, oh, no, I was totally not covered in Dr. Pepper and cigarette burns when I laid down. So other than that, I'm fine. Totally not covered in that prior to this. But good for him. It is nice to see. It's kind of like a bucket list, I guess. Feats of survival like that, where you don't want to live them. Some people do, like the idiots that jump out of freaking airplanes and stuff. Like I got a cousin who is in the Navy, but I guess there's an air Navy or something because he jumps out of airplanes and Oh, Jonah left. I guess he's maybe gonna go take care of the bean problem. Yeah, I got a cousin who jumps out of airplanes for the Navy somehow. I guess they're nautical, and he showed me videos of just the crap they're doing while they're falling, and it's all a game. I guess it is. It's either gonna work or it's not when you pull the chute. So might as well enjoy it. But I feel like the first time you would do that, if you ever wanted to see if you could, like, how hard butt cheeks can squeeze together, I think that skydiving would be one of the best ways to find out. You take like a real good butt cheek squeezer up there and let them just push them out of that freaking airplane. They're gonna squeeze. You get a little meter in there, like a squeeze meter in between the cheeks. I'm telling you, I could not only crack an acorn at that thing, be a freaking nutcracker. I'd be like that, make a musical after me, throw me out of an airplane. So anyways, that's happening, and good for him, the guy from India. It's always good, It's always good when people don't get hit by trains, and I like to share that, and that's why I'm glad you guys are here. Another news story so as far as the ocean goes, I'm going to tie this in with one of the final things on the list and tie these next stories kind of together. I don't know if you guys understand this. People are freaking out about the people that were already freaking out about UFOs and aliens. Right now, they are walking around like they're walking around like Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan in 1997. Like, they're walking through airports and being like, yeah, I'm renting a Cadillac, dude. Brother, come here, brother. Like, the world is these UFO people because mainstream sources and all that stuff, all the legacy media, all that stuff is now coming out and verifying, and Pentagon and Congress, and verifying at least partially some of the claims, or at least verifying that there's unexplained events, which means that they're not verifying anything, in my opinion. But regardless, it gives enough fuel to the fire for that community. And then there is just strangeness that's maybe going on, but I look at the strangeness going on as the man-made strangeness, the AI, the artificial intelligence, and somehow they're connected to me in some way, one from the other, and vice versa. But you got to remember, people, that we put a blindfold on about something that we, I think, put in place, which is, I'm pretty sure Mike Pence is the guy that we laid in charge of Space Force, or at least at one time. I know that during Donald Trump's reign as Supreme Star Lord of the United States, he said, Vice President Pence, please come here. You are now leader of the Star Force. And he gave him the power of America to battle galactically, basically. And so the whole time, people are talking about all these different sightings or things that are going on. And there's a new Netflix show called Encounters. And there's these different things that are going on. The whole time I'm thinking, dog, if this stuff is going on, what's America going to do? Who do we put in charge? We basically put that guy from the Toy Story show. If you've ever seen the movie Toy Story, there's these little army men, and there's the leader of the army men that's got this flat top. That's Mike Pence. Only we put some sort of jelly in him that turned him into a human, kind of. I don't know if you ever heard him speak. We basically got the Toy Story character running our Starfleet, guys. I don't know if you know this. He named them the Guardians, guys. So it's a very strange thing. And how does this weirdness, meaning keep an eye out for aliens? I'm thinking about it, but I'm thinking about it in the way of, how does it relate to AI? Because AI is what is really concerning me, in the sense of, do you want to globally be concerned about something that you can't control? Then that's the topic that I'd rather put my thoughts into, rather than things like wars or man-made um, political problems or economic problems. I can't. There's no foothold in even putting your brain in that kind of discussion because you have no control, except if you think that you can vote. But yeah, so I tend to go the other way. Like, what else could be going on? What's going on in the business sector, I guess, or what's going on in the military, whatever. What seems to be the fever pitch that seems to be happening? And obviously, it's everyone is the AI, but I look at it in more of, do we not see that if we allow it, then you're allowing the end, because you will not be able to compete as a human with an intelligence that already is beyond where we are at, like as probably as like normal intelligence people. You know what I mean? If you're just a normal taco shop owner like myself, then you're don't worry, AI is already smarter than you, but it will rapidly, as it increases more and more rapid. So it's just a matter of time. And so I think about that a lot. And then I think about, like, what are they going to do? And I don't understand why these billionaires and these startups and these tech companies and these people that design these machines of labor, or these machines of thought, or these machines of whatever, they're designing these things, but I don't understand why we have to make them look like humans. Why do we have to make them look humanoid? Why do we have to make them blend in? Like, every conference, when it has one of these idiots wearing their turtlenecks and their tiny microphones on the side of their face, and they're standing on the black stage, and they're standing there next to their big PowerPoint presentation, notice, no action stick, and they're standing there talking about the robot they built, how come they're trying to make the robot look like a human? How about we just keep them looking like robots, guys? That way we can know, you know? So I never understood that. But anyways, I know what it is. It's always because it's like, we're so stupid. We're like, well, that looks weird and mechanical. It is weird and mechanical, buddy. It's a robot. Like, you don't need to make it have skin and have a chest, and, like, does it have abs? Like, does my robot have abs? 6-minute robot abs. But that's what it seems that we do. And so I was fantasizing the other day about how, if they come after us, which they will, if we allow it to even progress, probably, how do we fight them? In Terminator, when we play the game inside the Airstream, we shoot them with bombs, and it looks like the help of some sort of militia with us, and we're firing machine guns and bombs at these idiots, grenade launchers, these robots that are coming after us, these T-2000s. But like, now, what would you do? I was thinking, well, maybe you could go out in the ocean. That's where I got to the ocean thing. Maybe you could go out in the ocean. And then, as those robots that they made look like Scarlett Johansson, when they're coming after you, you got 8 million frickin' dead-eyed Scarlett Johanssons running after you through the streets of North Carolina, and you're jumping into the damn ocean. What the hell? You're screaming. You get out there, and they start fizzing out. They get in there. Some of them can swim. Sharks eat them. Frickin', who knows what happens out there in that. Salt gets into their hydraulics. They fizz out, and we think we beat the robots. But that's where I get concerned, because as I'm thinking that's the way we're going to have to beat AI, is by learning to float and swim. And, like, what if AI takes over the land and we just become Waterworld? Didn't we see that movie, guys? What if we can't get back to land? Okay? Because the robots are there. At least we can stay in 97% of the rest of the world, which is water. We'll be fine. This is a water world. That's what I was thinking. But then I thought, oh, what is this article? Robots that look like manta rays will sink seaweed to the ocean floor and help absorb carbon. Code word, frickin' water robots. They're putting stingray water robots that they're saying will frickin' help with CO2 emissions, underwater seaweed CO2 emissions. Oh, what device? Tell me, where's the capacitor, the nuclear capacitor thing that, where's the flux capacitor that tested how much CO2 is coming out of seaweed in the ocean, buddy? You're making up numbers. You don't know what you're talking about, lab coat. You made it up so you could build a weapon that's underwater AI. These are stingrays. Why would you make it look like a stingray? Even if, I don't even know if stingrays are mean or bad. You know why? I don't dick with something that's got sting in the name. Okay, if you're called like gunshot head shark, I wouldn't come pet you. People are like, don't you love gunshot heads? No, I don't. Why? They're safe. No, they're named gunshot head for a reason. Stingrays are named stingrays, I'm assuming, for a reason. Probably because they float around like rays of little lightning, underwater lightning, and their tails sting the crap out of you, my son said. He's smarter than I am. And if my wife was here now, she'd correct him. That's my life. So, anyways, you can't escape, is what I'm saying. If we allow, this is not, by the way, it said Davy Jones's locker. Obviously, it's not Davy Jones, or maybe it is. They're calling it the Roomba meets Pac-Man of the sea. If we allow these idiots, and I say we collectively as humans, to build stingray-shaped devices of war to float around with artificial intelligence, telling us that they're sucking up CO2. Guess what else breathes CO2, Buster? You do. Okay? You breathe CO2. It started with seaweed. It started with stingrays. It started with, we put a little underwater Roomba Pac-Man under there and it just floated around and sucked up seaweed bubbles. What? No, you didn't. You built a death machine that when we're floating away from your land robots, they're going to be coming up and sucking CO2 out of us. And that's called a hypothesis or a theory. And anyways, I don't know what the solution is to practically anything. So if we have a problem with seaweed burping, have we ever thought that maybe the problem is that we made up all these jobs that don't matter? You know what I mean? Like, if we didn't have the person that had to, got married, because that's America. You got the person that goes to a good school. So she's being driven around her whole life from 1970s to now. So she's got all of the vehicles, fleet of vehicles that has provided her transportation on her pursuit to someday find if there's a way to stop carbon emissions. Hey, dummy, here's a way to stop carbon emissions. Don't emit carbon. If you spent freaking 40 years driving around in a car to then go stop seaweed from burping up 3 or 4 bubbles, had you not just went to school, we wouldn't have the carbon issue anyways. And it goes for probably the majority of shit we do. If we just go back to actually things that we need rather than things that we wanted, we wouldn't have to drive around and make up fake jobs and make up fake careers and make up fake things and make up fake departments and fake offices and fake things to cause fake protections, because we cause real world problems by wanting. It's a very strange thing. So let's go fix the problem we caused by creating such a massive whatever that's called, monolith of a place, consumerism. We had to go buy all this shit and make all this shit, and then store all this shit, and all this shit that we bought and made and stored ruined the planet. Now we got to figure out a way to fix it. Well, here's a way. Don't buy all that shit. But that's probably, people don't like that. What do I know? I'm an idiot and I made all that up. Anyways, a lot of that. This is probably a great idea with the manta ray sink seaweed to the ocean floor. It was from the Good News Network, so I don't doubt that it's freaking good news. But we also got China and the U.S. have partnered up again, so hold your breath or don't. But they're collaborating on a way to purify seawater. This is what I'm saying. They want us to live in the ocean, guys. They want us to live in the ocean. Amazon's told you, the FAA or whatever, the people that monitor the skies with their little tiny circle beep beep machines, beep beep, ooh, something in the sky. Like, yeah, go outside and look up or look at the machine. That's fine. Yeah. So anyways, what I'm saying is, Jonah, you're 11, right? They're trying to force you to live in the ocean. Amazon is going to be delivering. they cleared the airspace for drone deliveries just recently. Nobody's talking about that. That'd probably be a smart thing to invest in. Not that I know anything about investing. I don't. But if I were you, I would probably invest in whatever the little components or companies that make components that make drone technology, because with this clearance, the drone delivery services in urban areas is going to skyrocket. So the need for those kinds of parts and supplies is going to be in a huge demand. So that might be a tip if somebody was wanting to is in investments. But they want to learn how to do these drone deliveries because of one reason. We're going to be out there on that ocean, buddy. We're going to be out there on that ocean with the freaking AI manta rays, and luckily these people are making a way to purify seawater for us to drink it. Finally. Hey, let's start there. We got all this water that we can't drink. It said something like 90% of the Earth's water is undrinkable. And you're telling me that these idiots figured out how to make it? You know, how old are they? Like 30? Figured out past 15 years how to make seawater drinkable? It only took 10 years? Jeez. Start there. Simple. So, I'm not worried about, like, I'm thinking about getting a YMCA membership and starting to learn how to swim. Um, you're a pretty good swimmer yourself already, right? Yeah. I'm still learning the concept of floating. Um, but I do have the doggy paddle down and a number of other, like, I know what the backstroke is and the breaststroke is. So as far as the lingo, I'm fine. But I would like to go maybe learn how to swim. It seems like that might be where the second part of our life is. Unless we're able to buy an island, okay? And in order to buy an island, you need a number of things. You either need to have some sort of secret on somebody that already owns an island. Um, so if you have some sort of powerful secret, like maybe somebody was like, maybe you saved somebody's life, or you went to prison for them because they framed you for murder. You know what I mean? And then they went and lived this great life and they bought an island. And when you got out of prison, you're like, hey, buddy, remember that time I went to prison for you? Can I have my island? And they're like, yeah, sure. And they give it to you. That's one way to get an island. The other way is just have money. Well, that's tough to do. A lot of people, some people make it look a lot easier than others. I've never been accused of making money look easy. I've made it look very difficult my whole life. Um, but I think with this new invention, I think that this could be something that brings a little bit of money. I got two inventions here, a little bit of money back in our pocket, and if we do turn into a water world, not only are we men of action because we have action sticks, we will be able to not only survive but thrive because the amount of financial security that we'll have if this next idea comes off the table and works. And that is aging celebrity endorsements, guys. We got a bunch of oldies out there. You know who I'm talking to, and a lot of you guys are listeners, and I want to thank you for that. It's good to have you here, George Clooney. It's good to have you here, Brad Pitt. It's good to have you here. All of you old geezer men celebrities. Ooh, it looks like we have some musical guests here. Keith Richards has showed up. And that's who I wanted to talk to, because I think Keith Richards could introduce me to one of his friends, another musician who you might have heard from Chevy commercials singing the song Like a Rock. His name was Bob Seger, and he used to sing the theme to Chevrolet. Like a rock. I was strong as I could be. Like, remember that? Might be too old for you. But either way, Bob Seger is one of my favorite artists that has ever sang and written music. And I was thinking of a way that, can we get Bob Seger back in mainstream? You know, Jonah's 11, he doesn't know who Bob Seger is, and he's never going to know unless there's some way that I can get Bob Seger back. And I was thinking if we could invent something called Bob Cigarettes. And what these are are smokes. He sang a famous song called "Turn the Page." So the tagline is "Smokes that help you turn the page." Bob cigarettes. We could pitch it to him. And then have a Oh my gosh! What if the carton of cigarettes is a book? Bob cigarettes, a book of cigarettes. Turn the page. Another man. If James was still smoking, he'd be smoking Seegers. No, he's probably. Oh, are you going to the store? I'll buy a pack of Seegers for me. I'm just saying. What's he doing? There's no Bob Seger Kool-Aid. There's no Bob. I'm not. There's no Bob Seger sausage. I would buy it if there was a Bob Seger sausage link. Yeah, I'd be freaking on a dusty highway with Bob Seger eating sausage. So, if you know him or if you know his email, consider sending that along, passing that over to me, and I will reach out to Mr. Robert Seger myself and pitch him the idea of the Bob Cigarette. I might even, if it's maybe physically, if I physically actually send him mail, if I get his mailing address, I wouldn't mind sending him. He could be a hot dog hero. I wouldn't mind resing a hot dog and sending it over to Bob Seger. So I've never sent him one, and I'd write a nice note thanking him for just a number of songs that I don't even know if he sang all of them, but think of them a lot of times when I hear them. You know what I mean? You ever have things like that? It's like, I don't know. It doesn't matter that Elvis didn't sing this song. Yeah. I like Elvis. I like Bob Seger. There you go. Thanks, Bob. And if that doesn't work, the only other thing I had really on the list that you guys know here is I talked about possibly bringing in a new protein, I guess, to the menu here at OK Taco Company, and I just don't know the legality of it is the biggest issue. Because I wanted to be something different. I reached out to a buffalo farmer, which, by fax, and so, anyways, buffalo meat is more than gold. For all I get why the pioneers killed them all. That stuff is expensive. Well, I know the Indians actually used them. I'm just saying, and they were free to Indians, but I get it. People are like, "Oh, we almost killed all the buffaloes." Like, have you ever bought buffalo meat? It's expensive. Yeah. So, anyways, we've looked at some other things. We looked at like lamb and carp and stuff, but you get to the point where what's different? What's a bird that's real different? Chicken's what everybody says. He's got chicken. It's like, no, a bird that can't fly. Are you crazy? No way. Do I got chicken? You got chicken? What for? What? Like, what are you talking about? Do I got for what? Welcome to the OK Taco Company. Oh, do you guys have chicken? For what? What are you gonna do with it? You mean as a meat? Jeez. It's weird when I hear the question. So I was thinking, I asked James a while back what his favorite bird was. Smartly, he said canary. And I don't know, because that was surprising. But he said canary, and so... Well, I thought we could start serving canary tacos. Harry Canary. Harry Carey was a famous sports announcer. And we could do a Harry Canary taco. It could just be like chicken nuggets, but we say it's canary meat or something. I don't even know if it's illegal. You might be able to eat canary. It's probably not much meat. It'd be a smaller taco, or you'd need more canaries, but because it's like scrimps. It's like when you eat scrimp, you can't just get one scrimp on a scrimp taco. It might be 2 or 3 canaries to do one taco. I don't know if it's similar to sparrow meat. I'd have to think it's similar. So that's one idea, and what that does, as always, is gets the ball rolling, gets the old thought train, the locomotive that frickin' New Delhi guy was laying by going, and so I started thinking about James, and I asked him to Google today birds that you can keep in your pocket, because there's been a number of incidents that have happened throughout my life where James has had a bird in his pocket. Probably more than most, I would think. But there has been numerous times where I've had to ask if there is a bird in somebody's pocket, and there was, and dead. In fact, the amount of bird-related shenanigans that has randomly happened to me. I mean, for those of you who have listened for a long time, you do know that I mowed the yard of an actual magician for a long time, like long enough that his wife hired me. She died, and I mowed it just for him. And for a lot of times, he could mow. A lot of times, he was there mowing when I pulled up, and he'd be like, "Hey, good to see you. I'll go inside." Great. And he had birds outside. And one time I was like, "Hey, man, I didn't mean to scare your birds." He's like, "Oh, you can't scare those. They're magic birds." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm a magician. You didn't know that?" And it's like, one, was I supposed to? And two, not usually something I assume. You know what I mean? Typically, when I meet grumpy old men like this man was, who end up being a friend later, he might be gone now. He was looking pretty bad last time I seen him. But either way, you see this grumpy man, you don't think, I bet this guy's a magician. I thought, I bet this guy's like ex-CIA. This is the attitude he had. I think this guy hates me. This guy is miserable. This guy's like that grumpy old man that goes fishing and just as angry as fishing line gets caught in his hat. And no, dude, he's into magic. That was it. And so there was that. I mean, I've had that. And James would oftentimes, if a bird would be dead near him, he would pick it up. I mean, and for whatever reason, I mean, being landscapers, we would see a lot of birds. Yeah, it's just nature. So Jonah was saying that one of another animal in our life is out there catching turtles. So I was thinking we get James a pocket bird though, that he carry a live one, not a dead one. Oh, dude, but how cool! Here's what he needs. He sits out here every day talking to God, which is fine with us. But you put a bird in your pocket, at least. I don't know. I've heard him. Yeah, he will practice his jokes in the mirror before trying them out on whoever he tries them out on. And a lot of them are on me, which is fine, and I love them. They're hilarious. Sometimes nobody else would think so, and you have to speak his language. But if you get it, and yeah, it's like Damien. Okay, yeah. All right, so we're gonna get out of here. Let's see. We got to everything on the list. The man that survived the train, the new beans. I didn't get to what I was watching. We'll get to that next week. I'll tell you how it ends. Spoiler alert, it's about Jesus, so you kind of know how it ends. Bob Cigarettes. This episode's brought to you by Bob Cigarettes. Smokes that help you turn the page. And OK Taco action sticks. So if you guys want to support the show, consider buying an OK Taco action stick for men and women of action. So with that being said, don't let your meatloaf and have an okay day.